of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami has described 7 kinds of indirect ecstasies of devotional service known as laughing, astonishment, chivalry, compassion, anger, dread, and ghastliness. In this portion, Srila Rupa Goswami further describes these ecstasies of devotional feelings, some being compatible and others incompatible with another. When one kind of aesthetic devotional service overlaps with another in a conflicting way, this state of awareness is called rasa bhasa, or pervaded presentation of mellows. Expert learners scholars say that laughing is generally found among youngsters or in the combination of old persons and young children. This aesthetic loving laughing this aesthetic loving laughing is sometimes also found in persons who are very grave by nature. Once an old mendicant approached the door of Mother Yashoda's house, and Krishna told Yashoda, "My dear mother, I don't wish to go near any skinny villain. If I go there, he might put me in his begging bag and take me away from you." In this way, the wonderful child Krishna began to look at his mother, while the mendicant who was standing at the door tried to hide his smiling face. Although he could not do so, he immediately expressed his smiling. In this instance, Krishna himself is an object of laughing affair. Once when Krishna once one of Krishna's friend informed him, "My dear Krishna, if you will open your mouth, I shall give you one nice sugar candy mixed with yogurt." Krishna immediately opened his mouth, but instead of giving him sugar candy, the friend dropped a flower in his mouth. After tasting this flower, Krishna turned his mouth into a disfigured disfigured way, and upon seeing this all, his friends started standing there began to laugh very loudly.
Once a palmist came to the house of Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj asked him, "My dear sage, will you kindly check the hand of my child Krishna? Tell me how many years he will live and whether he will become the master of thousands of cows." Upon hearing this, the palmist began to smile, and Nanda Maharaj asked him, "My dear sir, why are you laughing and why are you covering your face?" In such a laughing ecstasy of love, Krishna or matters pertaining to Krishna are the cause of the laughter. In such laughing devotional service, there are symptoms. In such laughing devotional service, there are symptoms of jubilation, laziness, concealed feelings, and similar other seemingly disturbing elements. According to Sri Rupa Goswami's calculation, laughter in ecstatic love can be broken down into 6 divisions. These divisions, according to the different degrees of smiling, are called in the Sanskrit language Smita, Hasita, Vihisita, Avahasita, Apahasita, and Atihasita. These 6 classes of smiling can be classified as major and minor. The major division includes Smita, Hasita, and Vihasita smiling, and the minor division includes Avahasita, Apahasita, and Atihasita smiling. When one is smiling but his teeth are not visible, one can distinctly mark a definite change in the eyes and in the cheeks. This is called Smita smiling. Once, when Krishna was stealing yogurt, Jarati, the headmistress of the house, could detect his activities, and she was therefore coming very hurriedly to catch him. At that time, Krishna became very much afraid of Jarati and went to his elder brother Baldev. He said, "My dear brother, I have stolen yogurt. Just see, Jarati is coming hurriedly to catch me." When Krishna was thus seeking the shelter of Baldev because he was being chased by Jarati, all the great sages in the heavenly planets began to smile. The smiling is called Smith smiling.
Smiling in which the teeth are slightly visible is called Hasita smiling. One day, Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Radharani, was returning home, and at that time he could not see that Krishna was there in the house. Krishna immediately changed his dress to look exactly like Abhimanyu and approached Abhimanyu's mother, Jatila, addressing her thus, "My dear mother, I am your real son Abhimanyu, but just see, Krishna dressed up like me is coming before you." Jatila, the mother of Abhimanyu, immediately believed that Krishna was her own son and thus became very angry at her real son who was coming home. She began to drive her real son who was crying, "Mother, mother, what are you doing?" Seeing this incident, all the girlfriends of Radharani who were present there began to smile, and the portion of their teeth was visible. This is an instance of Hasita smiling. When the teeth are distinctly visible in a smile, that is called Vihasita. One day, when Krishna was engaged in stealing butter and yogurt in the house of Jatila, he assured his friends, "My dear friends, I know that this old lady is now sleeping very profoundly because she is breathing very deeply. Let us silently steal butter and yogurt without making any disturbance." But the old lady Jatila was not sleeping, so she could not contain her smiling, and her teeth immediately became distinctly visible. This is an instance of Vihasita smiling. In a state of smiling, when the nose becomes puffed and the eyes squint, the smiling is called avahasita. Once early in the morning, when Krishna returned home after performing his rasa dance, Mother Yashoda looked upon Krishna's face and addressed him thus: "My dear son, why do your eyes look like that? They have been smeared with some oxides. Have you dressed yourself with the blue garments of Baladeva?" Your mother, when Mother was addressing Krishna in that way, a girlfriend who was nearby began to smile with a puffed nose and squinting eyes. This is an instance of Avahasita smiling. The gopi knew that Krishna had been enjoying the rasa dance, and Mother Yashoda could not detect her son's activities and understand how he had become covered with the gopi's makeup. Her smiling was in the Avahasita feature.
When tears from the eyes are added to the smiling and the shoulders are shaking, the smile is called Apahasita. When child Krishna was dancing in response to the singing of the old maid servant Jarati, Narad was astonished. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who controls all the movements of great demigods like Brahma, was now dancing to the indications of an old maid servant. Seeing this one, Narad also began to dance and his shoulders trembled. His eyes moved due to his smiling. His teeth also became visible, and on account of this glaring effulgence from his teeth, the clouds in the sky turned silver. When a smiling person claps his hands and leaps in the air, the smiling expression changes into Ati Hasita or overwhelming laughter. An example of Ati Hasita was manifested in the following incident. Krishna once addressed Jarati thus: "My dear good woman, the skin of your face is now slackened, and so your face exactly resembles a monkey's. As such, the king of monkeys, Bali Mukha, has selected you as his worthy wife." While Krishna was teasing Jarati in this way, she replied that she was recently aware of the fact that the king of monkeys was trying to marry her, but she has already taken shelter of Krishna, the killer of many powerful demons, and therefore she had already decided to marry Krishna instead of the king of monkeys. On hearing this sarcastic reply by the talkative Jarati, all the cowherd girls present there began to laugh very loudly and clap their hands. This laughter, accompanied by the clapping of the hands, is called Atihasita. Sometimes there are indirect sarcastic remarks that also create Atihasita circumstances. An example of one such remark is the statement which was made by one of the cowherd girls to Kutila, the daughter of Jatila and sister of Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Radharani. And directly Kutila was insulted by the following statement: "My dear Kutila, daughter of Jatila, your breasts are as long as string beans, simply dry and long. Your nose is so gorgeous that it defies the beauty of the noses of the frogs, and your eyes are more beautiful than the eyes of dogs. Your lips defy the flaming cinders of fire, and your abdomen is as beautiful as a big drum. Therefore, my dear Kutila, you are the most beautiful of all cowherd girls of Vrindavan because of your extraordinary beauty. I think you must be beyond the attraction of the sweet blowing of Krishna's flute."
Chapter 46, Astonishment and Shravati. Astonishment. The ecstasy of astonishment in devotional service is perceived in two ways: directly by the experience of one's eyes and indirectly by hearing from others. When Narada Muni came to see the activities of Lord at Dwarka, and he saw that Krishna was present within every place in the same body and was engaged in different activities, he was struck with wonder. This is one of the examples of astonishment in devotional service by direct perception. One of the friends of Mother Yashoda said, Yashoda, just see the fun. On the one hand, there is a child who is always captivated by sucking the milk from your breast, and On the other hand, there is a great Govardhan hill, which can obstruct the passing of clouds. But still, see how wonderful is that this great Govardhan hill is resting on the finger of a child's left hand, just as though it was a toy. It does. Is this not very mysterious? This statement is another example of astonishment and devotional service by direct perception. An instance of astonishment and devotional service by indirect perception occurred when Maharaj Parikshit heard from Shukadeva Goswami about Krishna's killing Narakasura, who had begun fighting Krishna with 11 Akshauhini divisions of soldiers. Each divisions of Akshauhini Akshauhini soldiers contained several thousands elephants, several thousands horses and chariots, and several hundreds of thousands of infantry soldiers. Narkasur possessed 11 such divisions, and all of them were throwing arrows toward Krishna. But Krishna killed them all simply by throwing three arrows from his side. When Maharaj Parikshit heard of this wonderful victory, he immediately rubbed the tears from his eyes and became overwhelmed with joy. This is an instance of this instance is an example of astonishment in devotional service by indirect perception through oral reception. There is another example of astonishment. Trying to test Krishna to see if he were truly the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma stole all the cowherd boys and cows from him. But after few seconds, he saw that Lord Krishna was still present with all the calves, and the cowherd boys exactly in the same way as before. When Lord Brahma described this incident to his associates on the Satyaloka planet, they all became astonished. Lord Brahma told them that after taking all away the boys, he saw Krishna again playing with the same boys in the same fashion. Their body complexion was blackish, almost like Krishna's, and they all had four arms. The same calves and cows were still present there in the original fashion. Even while describing this incident, Brahma almost became overwhelmed. And the most astonished thing he added was that many other Brahmas from many different universes had also come there to worship Krishna and his associates.
Similarly, when there was a forest fire in Bhandirvan, Krishna instructed his friends to close their eyes very tightly, and they all did this. Then, when Krishna had extinguished the fire, cowherd boys opened their eyes and they saw that they had been relieved from the danger, and their cows and calves were all safe. They began to perceive the wonder of the situation simply by guessing how Krishna had saved them. This is another instance of indirect perception causing astonishment in devotional service. The activities of a person, if they are not very extraordinary, create an impression of wonder in the heart and mind of the person's friends. Even very wonderful activities performed by a person who is not one's friend will not create any impression. It is because of love that one's wonderful activities create an impression in the mind. Chivalry. On account of love and devotional service for the Lord, there is a special valorous enthusiasm. The resultant activities are called chivalrous. These chivalrous activities can be manifested in the acts of mock fighting, giving charity, showing mercy, and executing religious principles. By performing chivalrous activities in fighting, one is called Yuddha Veer. By charitable activities, one is called Dan Veer. By showing extraordinary mercy, is called Dayaveer, and when one is munificent in executing religious rites, he is called Dharmaveer. So, in all the different chivalrous activities, Krishna is the object. When a friend wants to satisfy Krishna by performing some chivalrous activities, the friend becomes the challenger, and Krishna himself become the opponent. Or else Krishna may give guidance to the fighting, and by his desire, another friend becomes the opponent. A friend once challenged Krishna thus: "My dear Madhav, you are very restless because you think that no one can defeat you. But if you do not flee from here, then I shall show you how can I defeat you. And my friends will be very satisfied to see this." Krishna and Sridhama were very intimate friends, yet Sridhama, out of anger with Krishna, challenged him. When both of them began to fight, all the friends on the bank of Yamuna enjoyed the wonderful fighting of the two friends. They prepared some arrows for mock fighting, and Krishna began to throw his arrows at Sridhama. Sridhama began to block these arrows while whirling his pole. By Sridham's chivalrous activities, Krishna became very satisfied. Such mock fighting takes place amongst chivalrous persons and creates wonderful excitement for all viewers. There is another statement in Harivamsa sometimes Krishna and Arjuna fought in the presence of Kunti and Arjuna would be defeated. This is chivalrous fighting between friends. There is sometimes bragging, complacence, pride, power, taking to weapons, challenging and standing as an opponent. All these symptoms became impetuses to chivalrous devotional service.
One friend challenged Krishna thus, "My dear Damodar, you are an expert only in eating. You have defeated Subala only because he is weak and you adopted cheating means. Don't advertise yourself to be a great fighter by such action. You have advertised yourself as a serpent, and I am the peacock who will now defeat you. The peacock is the ablest enemy of the serpent. In such fighting between friends, when the self advertisement becomes personal, learned scholars say that it is sub ecstasy. When there is a roaring challenge, certain kinds of movement for fighting enthusiasm, no weapons and assurance given to frightened witness. All these chivalrous activities are called sub ecstasy. One friend addressed Krishna thus in this manner: "My dear Madhusudana, you know my strength, yet you are encouraging Bhadrasena and not to me to challenge mighty Baladeva. By this action, you are simply insulting me because my arms are as strong as the bolts of the gate." A devotee once said, "My dear Lord Krishna, you may your challenger Sridhama become glorious for his chivalrous activities, such as vibrating like a thunder cloud and roaring like a lion. May all glories to Sridhama's chivalrous activities. Chivalrous activities in the matter of fighting, charity, mercy, and execution of religious rituals are called constitutional, whereas expressions of pride, emotion, endurance, kindness, determination, jubilation, enthusiasm, jealousy, and remembrance are called unconstitutional. When Shokta Krishna, one of one of the many many friends of Krishna, was fighting with him, his father chastised him for fighting with Krishna, one who was the life and soul of all residents of Vrindavan. Upon hearing these chastisements, uh, Stoka Krishna stopped his fighting, but Krishna continued to challenge him, and thus, in this order to meet the challenge, Stoka Krishna took his pole and began to display his dexterity by whirling it. Once Sridhama challenged Bhadrasena and said to him, "My dear friend, you need not be afraid of me. Yet I shall first of all defeat our brother Balram, and then I shall beat Krishna, and then I shall come to you." Bhadrasen therefore left the party of Balram and joined Krishna, and he agitated his friends as much as the Mandara hill and agitated the whole ocean. By this roaring sounds, he defied all his friends, and he inspired Krishna with his chivalrous activities. Once Krishna challenged all his friends and said, "My dear friends, just see, I am jumping with great chivalrous prowess. Please do not flee away." Upon hearing these challenging words, a friend named Varuthapa counter challenged the Lord and struggled against him. One of the friends once remarked, Sudama is trying his best to see Damodar defeated, and I think that it is our powerful and sorry, and I think that if our powerful Subala joins him, then they will be very beautiful combination, just like valuable jewel bedecked with gold. In this chivalrous activities, only Krishna's friends can be opponents. Krishna's enemies can never actually be his opponents. Therefore, this challenging by Krishna's friends is called devotional service and chivalrous activities.
Danveer, or chivalry in giving charity, may be divided into two parts: munificence and renunciation. A person who can sacrifice everything for the satisfaction of Krishna is called munificent. When a person desires to make a sacrifice because of seeing Krishna, Krishna is called impetus of the munificent activity. When Krishna appeared as the son of Nanda Maharaj in clear consciousness, Nanda Maharaj desired all auspiciousness for his son and thus began to give valuable cows in charity to all the Brahmins. The Brahmins were so satisfied by his by this charitable action that they were obliged to say that the charity of Nanda Maharaj has excelled the charity of such past kings as Maharaj Prithu and Grega. When a person knows the glories of the Lord completely and is prepared to sacrifice everything for the Lord, he is called a Sampradanak, or one who gives everything in charity for the sake of Krishna. When Maharaj Yudhishthir went with Krishna in the arena of Rajasuya sacrifice, in his imagination he began to anoint the body of Krishna with pulp of sandalwood. He decorated Krishna with a garland hanging down to his knees. He gave Krishna garments all embroidered with gold. He gave Krishna ornaments all bedecked with valuable jewels, and he gave Krishna many fully decorated elephants, chariots, and horses. He further wished to give Krishna in charity his kingdom, his family, and his personal self also. After so desiring, when there was nothing actually to give in charity, Maharaj Yudhishthira became very perturbed and anxious. Similarly, Maharaj Bali once told his priest, Shukracharya, "My dear sage, you are fully expert in knowledge of the Vedas, and as such, you worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu by Vedic rituals. As far as this Brahman dwarf, the incarnation of Vamandev, is concerned, if he is Lord Vishnu, a simple Brahmin, or even my enemy, I have decided to give him in charity all the land he has asked for." Maharaj Bali was so fortunate that the Lord extended before him his hand, which was reddish from the load, touching the breast of the goddess of fortune, who is always smeared with red kumkum powder. In other words, although the personality of Godhead is so great that the goddess of fortune is always under his command for enjoyment, he still extended his heart to take charity from Maharaj Bali. A person who wants to give everything to charity, in charity to Krishna, but he does not want anything in return, is considered the real renouncer. Thus, a devotee will refuse to accept anything, any kind of liberation, even if it is offered by the Lord. Real love of Krishna becomes manifested when Krishna becomes the recipient of charity and the devotee becomes the giver.
In the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, there is another example forwarded by Maharaj Dhruva. He says there, "My dear Lord, I have practiced austerities and penances because I was desiring to receive something from you. But in exchange, you have allowed me to see you, who are never visible to even to the great sages and saintly persons. I have been searching out some pieces of broken glass, but instead I have found the most valuable jewel. I am therefore fully satisfied, my lord. I do not wish to ask anything more from your lordship." A similar statement is to be found in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 15th chapter, verse 48. The four sages headed by Sanaka Muni address the Lord as follows: "Dear Supreme Personality of Godhead, your reputation is very attractive and free from all material contamination. Therefore, you are worthy of all of being glorified and are actually the reservoir of all places of pilgrimage. Auspicious persons who are fortunate enough to be engaged in glorifying your attributes and who actually know what a transcendental position is do not even care to accept liberation offered by you because they are so transcendently enriched. They do not care to accept even the post of Indra, the heavenly king. They know that the post of the queen the they know that the post of the king of heaven is so fearful, whereas for those who are engaged in glorifying your transcendental qualities, there is only joyfulness and freedom from all danger. As such, why should persons with this knowledge be attracted by a post of heavenly kingdom? A devotee has described his feelings about the charity exhibited by Maharaj Mayur Dhwaja. I am faltering even to speak about the activities of Maharaj Mayur Dhwaja, whom I offer my respectful obeisances. Mayur Dhwaja was very intelligent, and he could understand why Krishna came to him once in the grab of a Brahmana. Krishna demanded from him half of his body to be swayed off by his wife and son, and King Mayurധ്wja agreed to his proposal. On the account of his intense feeling of devotional service, King Mayurധ്wja was always thinking of Krishna, and therefore, and when he understood that Krishna had come in the grab of a Brahmana, he did not hesitate to he did not hesitate to part with half of his body. This sacrifice of Maharaj Mayurധ്wja for Krishna's sake is unique in the whole world, and we should offer our respectful and we should offer all our respectful obeisances to him. He had full knowledge of the supreme personality of Godhead in the grab of a Brahmana, and he is known as the perfect Danavira or renouncer. Any person who is always ready to satisfy Krishna, and who is always dexterous in executing devotional service is called Dharmavira or chivalrous in executing religious rituals. Only advanced devotees performing religious ritualistic performances can come to the stage of Dharmavira. Dharmaviras are produced after going through the authoritative scriptures, following moral principles, being faithful and tolerant, and controlling the senses. Person who are Person who execute religious rituals for satisfaction of Krishna are steady in devotional service, whereas persons who execute religious rituals without intending to please Krishna are only called pious.
The best example of a Dharmavir is Maharaj Yudhishthir. A devotee once told Krishna, "My dear Krishna, O killer of all demons, Maharaj Yudhishthir, the eldest son of Maharaj Pandu, has performed all kinds of sacrifices just to please you. He was always invited. He has always invited the heavenly king Indra to take part in the yajnas because King Indra was thus absent so often from Sachi Devi. She had to pass much of her time pinning over Indra's absence with her cheeks upon her hands. The performance of different yagyas for the demigods is considered to be the worship of the limbs of the Supreme Lord. The demigods are considered to be different parts of the universal body of the Lord, and therefore the ultimate purpose of worshipping them is to please the Lord by partially worshipping his different limbs. Maharaj Yudhishthir had no such material desire. He executed all sacrifices under the direction of Krishna and not to take any personal advantage from them. He desired only to please Krishna and was therefore called the best of the devotees. He was always merged in the ocean of loving service. Compassion, chapter 47. Compassion and anger. Compassion. When the ecstasy of devotional service produces some kind of lamentation in connection with Krishna. It is called devotional service and compassion. The impetuses for this devotional service are Krishna's transcendental quality, form, and activities. In this ecstasy of devotional service, there are sometimes symptoms like regret, heavy breathing, crying, falling on the ground, and beating upon one's chest. Sometimes symptoms like laziness, frustration, defamation, humility, anxiety, moroseness, eagerness, restlessness, madness, death, forgetfulness, disease, and illusion are also visible. When in the heart of a devotee there is expectation of some mishap to Krishna, it is called devotional service and bereavement. Such bereavement is another symptom of this devotional service and compassion. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 16th chapter, verse 10, there is the following description. When Krishna was chastising the Kalyanag in the Yamuna, the big snake wrapped his coils all over Krishna's body, and upon seeing Krishna in this situation, all his dear cowherd friends became greatly disturbed. Out of bereavement, distress, and fear, they became bewildered and began to fall on the ground because the cowherd boys were all under the illusion that Krishna could not mishap, that Krishna could be in some mishap. Their symptoms are not at all astonishing. They had dedicated their friendship, their possessions, their desire, and their very selves to Krishna. When Krishna entered the Yamuna river, which had been very poisonous from the presence of Kaliya, Mother Yashoda feared all kinds of mishaps, and she was breathing hotly. Tears from her eyes were soaking her clothes, and she was almost collapsing. Similarly, when Shankasur, demon, was attacking Krishna's queens one after another, Lord Baladev became more and more bluish.
In the Harivamsa Dutta, the following incident is described. The gopis requested Hamsaduta to search after the marks of Krishna's lotus feet and to accept them as Lord Brahma had accepted them on his helmet after he had stolen all Krishna's cowherd boys. Regretting this challenge to his challenge to Krishna, Lord Brahma had bowed down before the Lord, and his helmet became marked with the footprints of Krishna. The gopis reminded Hamsaduta that sometimes even the great sage Narad Muni becomes very aesthetic by seeing these footprints, and sometimes great liberated sages also aspire to see them. You should therefore seek very enthusiastically to find the footprints of Krishna. They urged. uh, this is another instance of devotional service and compassion. There is an instance when Sahadev, the younger brother of Nakula, became very greatly gladdened at seeing the effulgent glowing face of Krishna, effulgent glowing of Krishna's footprints. He began to cry and call out, Mother Madri, where are you now? Father Pandu, where are you now? I am very sorry that you are not here to see the footprints of Krishna. This is another instance of devotional service and compassion. In devotional service, without strong attraction to the Lord, there may be sometimes be smiling and other symptoms, but never the stress or lamentation that the symptoms of devotional service and compassion. The basic principle of this compassion is always aesthetic love. The apprehension of some mishap to Krishna or to his beloved queens, was as exhibited by Baladeva and Yudhishthira, has been explained above. The apprehension is due not exactly to their ignorance of the inconceivable potencies of Krishna, but to their intense love for him. This this kind of this kind of apprehension of some mishap to Krishna, mishap to Krishna first of all becomes manifested as an object of lamentation, but gradually it develops into such compassionate loving ecstasy that it turns into another channel and gives transcendental pleasure. Anger. In aesthetic loving service to Krishna and anger, Krishna is always the object. In the Vigada Madhava, second second act, verse 37, Lalita Gopi addressed her anger, which was caused by Krishna, when she addressed Srimati Radharani thus. My dear friend, my inner desires have been polluted. Therefore, I shall go to the place of Yamaraj. But I am sorry to see that Krishna has still not given up his smiling over cheating you. I do not know how. I do not know how you could respond all your living propensities upon this lusty young boy from the neighborhood of the cowherds. After seeing Krishna, Jarati sometimes said, "Oh, you thief of young girls! Oh, you thief of young girls' properties! I can distinctly see the covering garments of my daughter-in-law on your person." Then she cried very loudly, addressing all the residents of Vrindavan to inform them that this son of King Nanda was setting fire to the household life of her daughter-in-law. Similar aesthetic love for Krishna and anger was expressed by Rohini Devi when she heard the roaring sound of the two falling Arjuna trees to which Krishna had been tied. The whole neighborhood proceeded immediately toward the place where the accident had taken place, and Rohini Devi took the opportunity to rebuke Mother Yashoda as follows: "You may be very expert in giving lessons to your son by binding him with rope, but don't you look to see if your son is in dangerous spot? The trees are falling down on the ground, and he is simply loitering there." This expression of Rohini Devi's anger toward Yashoda is an example of aesthetic love and anger caused by Krishna.
Once, while Krishna was in the pasturing ground with his friends requested him to go to the Talvan forest where Gardabhasur, a disturbing demon in the shape of an S, resided. The friends of Krishna wanted to eat the fruit from the forest trees, but they could not go because of fear of the demon. Thus they requested Krishna to go there and kill Gardabhasur. After Krishna did this, they all returned home, and their report of the day's activity perturbed Mother Yashoda because Krishna had been sent alone into such a danger in the Talwand forest. Thus she looked upon the boys with anger. There is an instance of anger on the part of a friend of Radharani's. When Radharani was dissatisfied with the behavior of Krishna and stopped talking with him, Krishna was very sorry for Radharani's great dissatisfaction, and in order to beg forgiveness, he fell down at her lotus feet. But even after this, Radharani was not satisfied and she did not talk with Krishna. At that time, one of her friends chastised her in the following words: "My dear friend, you are allowing yourself to be churned by the rod of dissatisfaction. So, what can I say unto you? The only advice I can give is that you better leave the scene immediately because your misbehavior is giving me too much pain. I cannot bear to see your behavior because even though Krishna's peacock feather has touched your feet, you still appear to be red faced." The above attitudes of dissatisfaction and anger in devotional service are called Irshiva. When Akrura was leaving Vrindavan, some of the elderly gopis rebuked him as follows: "O son of Gandhini, Your cruelty is defaming the dynasty of King Yadu. You are taking Krishna away, keeping us in such a pitiable condition without him. Now, even before you have left, the life here of all the gopis has practically disappeared. When Krishna was insulted by Shishupal in the assembly of Rajasuya Yajna and convened by Maharaj Yudhishthir, there was a great turmoil among the Pandavas and the Kurus, involving grandfather Bhishma. At that time, Nakula said with great anger, Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, and the nails of his toes are beautified by the light emanating from the jeweled helmets of the authorities of the Vedas. If he is derided by anyone, I declare herewith as a Pandava that I will kick his helmet with my left foot, and I will strike him with my arrows, which are as good as Yamdanda, the scepter of Yamaraj. This is an instance of ecstatic love for Krishna and anger. In such a transcendental angry mood, sometimes sarcastic marks and favorable glancing and insulting words are exhibited. Sometimes there are other symptoms like rubbing of the two hands, clacking of the teeth, clamping of the lips, moving of the eyebrows, scratching of the arms, lowering of the head, rapid breathing, uttering of strong words, nodding of the head, yellowishness at the corners of eyes, and trembling lips. Sometimes the eyes turn red and sometimes they fade. And there are symptoms, sometimes chastisement and silence. All these symptoms of anger may be divided into two parts, constitutional and unconstitutional, or permanent and temporary symptoms. Sometimes great emotion, bewilderment, fright, frustration, illusion, impotence, jealousy, dexterity, negligence, and signs of hard labor are also manifest as unconstitutional symptoms. In all these humors of ecstatic love, the feeling of anger is accepted as the steady factor. When Jarasandha angrily attacked the city of Mathura, he looked at Krishna with sarcastic glances. At that time, Baladeva took up his plow weapon and gazed upon Jarasandha with colored eyes.
There is a statement in the Vigad Madhava wherein Srimati Radharani in an angry mood addressed Purnamasi after she had accused Radharani for going to Krishna. My dear mother, Radha declared, what can I say to you? Krishna is so cruel that he often attacks me on the street, and if I try to cry out very loudly, this boy with a peacock feather on his head immediately covers my face so that I cannot cry. And if I want to and if I want to go away from the scene because I am afraid of him, he will immediately spread his arms to block my path. If I piteously fall down at his feet, then his enemy of the Madhu demon, in an angry mood, bites my face. Mother, just try to understand my situation and don't be unnecessarily angry with me. Instead, please tell me how can I save myself from these terrible attacks by Krishna. Sometimes among contemporary personalities, there are signs of ecstasy in anger because of love for Krishna. An example of such anger when exhibited in quarrel between Jatila and Mukhara. Jatila was the mother-in-law of Radharani, and Mukhara was his great grandmother. Both of them were talking about Krishna's unnecessary harassment for Radharani when she was walking in the street. Jatila said, "You cruel-faced Mukhara, by hearing your words, my heart feels like it is burning in a fire." And Mukhara replied, "You sinful Jatila, by hearing your words, there is aching in my head. You cannot give any evidence that Krishna has attacked Radharani, the daughter of my uh, granddaughter Kirtida." Once, when Radharani was taking off the necklace given to her by Krishna, Jatila, her mother-in-law, told a friend, "My dear friend, just see the beautiful necklace that Krishna had presented to Radharani. Now she is holding it, but still she wants to tell us that she has no connection with Krishna. This girl's activities have disgraced our whole family." Natural jealousy for Krishna by persons like Shishupal cannot be accepted as aesthetic love in anger with Krishna.
Chapter 48, Dread and Ghastliness. Dread. In ecstatic love for Krishna, in dread, there are two causes of fear, either Krishna himself or some dreadful situation for Krishna. When a devotee feels himself to be an offender at Krishna's lotus feet, Krishna himself becomes the object of dreadful ecstatic love. And when out of ecstatic love, friends and well wishers of Krishna apprehend some danger for him, that situation becomes the object of their dread. When Raksharaj was in front of Krishna fighting and suddenly realized that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna addressed him thus, My dear Raksharaj, why is your face so dry? Please do not threaten me. Please do not feel threatened by me. There is no need for your heart to tremble like this. Please calm yourself down. I have no anger toward you. You may, however, become as angry as you like with me, to expand your service in fighting with me, and to increase my sporting attitude. In this dreadful situation and ecstatic love for Krishna, Krishna himself is the object of dread. There is another instance of dreadful situation with Krishna as the object as follows. After being sufficiently chastised by child Krishna in the Yamuna river, the Kaliya snake began to address the Lord. O killer of Mura demon, I have acquired many mystic powers by my austerity and penances, but before you I am nothing. I am most insignificant. Therefore, please be kind upon a poor soul like me, and don't be angry with me. I did not know your actual position, and out of ignorance I have committed such horrible offenses. Please save me. I am a most unfortunate, foolish creature. Please be merciful to me. This is another instance of ecstasy of dread in devotional service. When the Keshi demon was causing disturbances in Vrindavan by assuming a large horse's body that was so big that he could jump over the trees, Mother Yashoda told her husband, Nand Maharaj, our child is very restless. So we had better keep him locked up in within the house. After being very worried about the recent disturbances of the Keshi demon, who has been assuming the form of a giant horse, when it was learned that the demon was entering Gokul in an angry mood, Mother Yashoda became so anxious to protect her child that her face dried up and there were tears in her eyes. These are some of the signs in ecstasy of dread in devotional service, caused by seeing and hearing something that is dangerous to Krishna. After Putana, which had been killed, some friends of Mother Yashoda inquired from her about the incident. Mother Yashoda at once requested her friends, please stop. Don't bring up the incident of Putana. I become distressed just by remembering this incident. This Putana witch came to devour my son, and she deceived me into letting her take the child on her lap. After that, she died and made a tumultuous sound with her gigantic body. In ecstasy of devotional service and dread, the unconstitutional symptoms are drying up of the mouth, exuberance, glancing behind oneself, concealing oneself, bewilderment, searching after the endangered, lovable object, and crying very loudly. Some other constitutional symptoms are illusion, forgetfulness, and expectation of danger. In all such circumstances, the ecstatic dread is the steady or constant factor. Such dread is caused either by offenses committed or dreadful circumstances. Offenses may be committed in varieties of ways, and the dread is felt by the person who has committed the offense. When dread is caused by a fearful object, this fearful object is generally a person who is fearsome in his features, nature, and influence. An example of an object that caused ecstatic dread is the Putana witch. Dread may be caused by mischievous demoniac characters such as King Kamsa, and it may be caused by great demigods like Indra and Shankar. Demons like Kamsa feared Krishna, but their feelings cannot be described as ecstatic dread in devotional service.
Ghastliness. It is understood from authoritative sources that an attachment for Krishna because of his feelings of disgust sometimes presents as a ghastly ecstasy in devotional service. The person experiencing such aesthetic love for Krishna is almost always in the neutral stage of devotional service or Shanta Rasa. A description of aesthetic love caused by ghastliness is found in the following statement. This person was formerly interested solely in the matter of lust and sense gratification, and he had perfected the greatest skill in exploiting women to fulfill his lesser desires. But now, How wonderful it is that the same man, is chanting the name of Krishna with tears in his eyes. And as soon as he sees the face of a woman, he immediately becomes disgusted. From the indication of his face, I would think that now he hates sex life. In this mellow of devotional service and ghastliness, the sub-aesthetic symptoms are spitting upon the consideration of one's past life, consorting, contouring the contorting the face, covering the nose, and washing the hands. There is also trembling of the body, forcible twisting of the body, and perspiration. Another other symptoms that may be present at this are may be present are shame, exhaustion, madness, illusion, frustration, humility, self-pity, restlessness, and eagerness, and stunning of the body. When a devotee lamenting for his past abominable activities shows special symptoms on his body, his feeling is called ecstasy in devotional service and ghastliness. This is caused by the awakening of his Krishna consciousness. In this connection, there is a following statement: how can a person take pleasure in enjoyment of sex life in this body, which is a bag of skin and bones, filled with blood and covered by skin and flesh, and which produces mucus and evil smells? This perception is possible only for one who is awakened to Krishna consciousness and who has become fully cognizant of the abominable nature of his material body. A fortunate child in the womb of his mother prayed to Krishna as follows: "O enemy of Kamsa, I am suffering so much because of this material body. Now I am trapped within the mess of blood, urine, and liquid stool within the womb of my mother. Because I am living in such a condition, I am suffering great pangs. Therefore, O divine ocean of mercy, please be kind to me. I have no ability to engage in your loving devotional service, but please save me." There is a similar statement by a person fall in a hellish condition of life. He addressed the Supreme Lord thus: my dear Lord, Yamaraj has placed me in this situation that is full of filthy and obnoxious smell. There are so many insects and worms surrounded by the stool left by different kinds of diseased persons. And after seeing this horrible scene, my eyes have become sore and I am becoming nearly blind. I therefore pray, O my Lord, O deliverer of the hellish conditions of life, I have fallen into this hell, but I shall try to remember your holy names always. In this way, I shall try to keep my soul and body together. This is another instance of aesthetic love for Krishna in the abominable situation. It is to be understood that any person who is constantly engaged in chanting of the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, has attained a transcendental affection for Krishna, and as such, in any condition of life, he remains satisfied simply by remembering the Lord's name in full affection and aesthetic love. In conclusion, it may be stated that aesthetic love for Krishna and ghastliness appears during the development of dormant neutrality into developed affection.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare